Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us today for our University of Rochester Alumni Panel. I want to, kick off tonight's session now that we're all here and settled by extending a huge congratulations to all of you who are tuning in tonight. Congratulations on your acceptance to the University of Rochester. We're delighted to have you join us and hope to welcome you to our hive of Yellow Jackets here at the University of Rochester. Speaking of Yellow Jackets, I'd love to start by introducing our wonderful panel of alumni, starting with Amanda. Do you care to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Devin. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda. I use she, they pronouns. I'm from the class of 2021. I actually made my own major in interdepartmental studies. Particularly, it was like argument and advocacy. So it was like philosophy, anthropology, political science. I minored in math, and my cluster, if I recall, was in economics. Something like that. Outside of the classroom, I did anthropology research following a protest. This was funded by the National Science Foundation, and I was also on the varsity debate team. I played club women's rugby, and I was a tour guide. Yeah, that's me. Oh, I'm currently a law student.
Hi everyone, I'm Alejandro. I graduated U of R with my bioethics degree in winter of 2021, and then I finished a master's in medical humanities from the School of Medicine in 2023. I believe when I was an undergrad, I also did like a minor in bio, and my cluster was in psychology. I've been working as a research specialist here at the university's medical center for the past 2 years, and in the fall, I'll be starting a bioethics and health humanities PhD in Galveston, Texas.
Hi, everyone. My name is Peter. I'm a graduate of the class of 2019 and really hoping I'm not the oldest, but we'll see. So when I was at Rochester, I did a major in neuroscience and I had three minors in clinical psych, chemistry, and Spanish. And outside of the classroom, I was also a Meridian tour guide. And I was a resident advisor. I did research at the medical center. And I was a teaching assistant for a couple different courses. Since graduating, I went to law school and I'm currently in medical school doing an MD JD path. Very interested in health policy. And yeah, I don't have anything fun that I do now, so that's just me.
Sure. Hello, I'm Bryce. I graduated from the university in 2020 with a degree in economics and music. And I currently live in New York City, where I work for the Orchestra of St. Luke's in the fundraising department. Outside of academics, while I was at the university, I participated in the Midnight Ramblers a cappella group and Rock Players musical theater.
Hi everyone, I'm Nandita. I graduated in the class of 2024. I majored in health behavior and society, so public health, and then I triple minored in clinical psych, statistics, and legal studies. Um, Outside of academics, I was in vocal point a cappella. I was a first year RA in Genesee Hall, and then an RA for seniors my senior year. And then I worked in the lab at the medical center. I'm trying to think, probably other stuff as well. And right now I'm getting my master's at Harvard Medical School in bioethics, and I am working full time as a consultant in Boston.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Collins. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. I graduated from the U of R in 2021, and I studied chemical engineering. A couple of the things I was involved with on campus was I was the tour guide, I was an admissions interviewer, I was also a student alumni ambassador. I played club volleyball, and I was a part of Greek life. And right now, I'm in my second year of law school. We have like two other law school people, which is kind of weird. Studying in Boston, and I'll be doing patent law.
Thanks, Collins. My name is Celia. I am originally from Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. I graduated from Rochester in 2022. I majored in environmental studies and did minors in French and theater, and then did a cluster in audio music engineering, and then a take 5 in Jewish studies and history. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything academically. Outside of the classroom, I was also an admissions interviewer, a student alumni ambassador, and a tour guide. I was also on the club field hockey team, a member of Drama House, which is one of our special interest housing options. And then I was also active with the campus radio station and with our theater department on stage and backstage. Since graduating from Rochester, I moved up to Canada and I just finished my master's in environmental studies, and I'm currently working as a maritime technology journalist.
My name is Ronnie. I graduated in 2020. My major was in finance and I did a minor in economics. Outside of the classroom, I was involved in a few things from either student government to my hall council freshman year. I was also involved in Greek life and our investment club that we have on campus as well, among other things that I'm probably forgetting. Since I graduated in 2020, I went into the world of finance, and I was initially in banking, and now I'm in private equity. And I've been doing that for a couple of years now.
Jamal Holtz, class of 2020. I am from Washington, D.C. But literally, my shirt say he's from D.C. My major, I created my own majors. Was sort of blending a bunch of different majors together, where it was social justice and public policy. And outside the classroom, I was involved in sort of student government. I served as student body president in 2019 to 2020. And then I was involved in a few other clubs. I was also a tour guide on campus too. It was the funnest job I think on campus, but the one job that you had to wake up super early for that I always was late for. But it was fun times, and I think a lot of us was on the screen was tour guide, so good to see a few other folks here too.
Starting the conversation, kicking off before we get questions rolling in from our admitted students. Something that I'm sure is on the minds of our admitted students as they're looking at different acceptances they have, as they're looking toward that May 1st enrollment deposit deadline. I'm curious, alumni, what made you ultimately choose to enroll at the University of Rochester? And whoever wants to start, feel free to take the lead on this one.
I think a big draw of the school back when I was looking into colleges, and I think something that everybody can speak on is just the open curriculum. Coming from high school, I had a general idea of what I wanted to do, but I mean, being able to just come to a university where you can dip your toes in so many different environments and so many different courses was really important to me. So, I mean, during my 4 years, I was able to take classes in ethics. I took a class on death. I took a yoga class. I was taking a bunch of dance classes. Still able to graduate in 4 years. That was the biggest thing. So just being able to pop around, you know, try so many different things under the school, I think was a great experience, and a part of what led me to go into law school as well, just being able to explore so many different areas while I was an undergrad. So that was the biggest draw to me.
I can add to that as well. I agree. I think like being able to bob around and try out all your different interests is really important. But I think for me, it was the idea that like at Rochester, you really get to curate your education. And that doesn't just mean coursework, but that also means like what you do with your free time. So like I did a ton of research in undergrad. So like I like worked for a research group in the Frederick Douglass Institute, which is now the Black Studies Department, looking at segregation in Rochester. I got to like work with RIT researchers and do like statistical studies to analyze like housing related issues. Like, and then when I was a junior going into senior year, I got to do research in prison about like essentially decarceration. And all of this was essentially self-directed. So essentially like Rochester gives you the opportunity to sort of cultivate an interest and then really specialize in it. And there are so many resources available for you to like just kind of go out on your own while supported by faculty. So my ultimate sort of like thesis project, even though it wasn't like actually a thesis, was I got to basically publish like major research, present at the American Anthropological Association. And it was because the school basically was just like, oh, you have a project? That's cool. Here's money. Here, go out into the world and do 250 hours of field work. We'll give you 8 credits for it. And I think at no other school would they let you kind of just like be out on your not on your own, like supported by faculty, but like out doing your own project. And that's also the impetus for like why I ended up like going to law school and I'm hoping to pursue academia after.
I can go next as well. I think this is more so an answer speaking to the students. So Devin, stop me if I'm being too honest. But I think I do want to sort of empathize with the kids who have gotten admitted to the university. I think going into my time at U of R, I wasn't sure if it was a place I wanted to stay long term or like potentially transfer, but I think that's how I went into it thinking about it. But I think ultimately what kept me there for 4 years was, listen, my freshman year was amazing. I think what made me stay was really the community of people. And I think that is something that I saw like firsthand in like my first econ course where I saw like I think we were studying for like a final exam first semester, and I recall a bunch of students were just in one of like the halls where we were just I didn't know people's names, but at that point I knew like 2 people, and we were just exchanging notes and like really studying together. Which in a huge class like that, you're not really incentivized to do so because of the curve and all these things. And I thought it was really emblematic of my time at the U of R of like there really is a sense of community within the people there. And I didn't think any other place could offer that. And then during my first year as well, I really began to cherish the really open curriculum that we had. I didn't know what that meant going into it, but I think as I extrapolated the 4 years beyond that, yes, I went in wanting to be a finance major and wanting to go into Wall Street, which is kind of weird, as a freshman. But I really got to explore things beyond that really piqued my interest, and I don't think I would have been able to do that anywhere else. So I think having that as people kind of touched upon it before, having that agency to really choose your cluster and explore your curiosity is something that really made me choose Rochester over and over again, and I'm happy I made that choice.
Mm. Yeah, I don't want to over answer, but I am going to over answer. But I'll just say, like, to echo Ronnie's point, like, I had no idea what the University of Rochester was. I didn't research it. Who wants to go to a school in the major cold weather? I thought it was Rochester, Minnesota. Like, I was every odds against this university, and I think this was one of the best decisions I've made in my entire life. And that's not a cliche thing to say. Like, I truly mean it. I think the one thing that Ronnie, sort of to pin in on what you said, was like, it's this idea of creating your own experience, right? Is sort of what made me even want to stay and sort of fall in love with the university, right? Like, I would say yes to doing anything for this university just because of the experience that I got to create that was unique to the challenges that I brought to the university, right? Everything from choosing your curriculum to also being able to be a part of student groups that, I mean, there's a student group for cooking, right? Like, there's over 235 student groups on campus. So, like, you can find your community, and that's not traditional at many universities. And so I think that's being able to find my community and meet me where I was at with the challenges I was coming to the university with, and create that experience from that, was something that I think would make me stay over the 4 years and fall in love with the school.
I think one of the biggest drivers for me coming to Rochester is I'm originally from the Bay Area in California. So I really kind of wanted a big change and shift when shifting into university. Definitely feel like Rochester provided me that. And also, much like I feel like Amanda shared earlier, research really drew me here. There's a lot of opportunities that you can identify yourself with professors that you take classes with, or people you get connected to. I was really grateful that the university has what they call the UR Bridge program, where you get matched based on like kind of like a profile you submit with a physician researcher over at the medical center. That's how I found like my longtime mentor and now my boss doing research with. So it's really easy to kind of like meet a lot of people and really do things that you want to do outside of like classwork.
My next question will be more of a softball, but I'm personally curious, and I think students often ask me about some of the more interesting courses offered at Rochester. Kind of rapid fire, what were folks' favorite classes that you took at Rochester and why?
I can go first. I feel like I always have a list in the back of my head of the classes that were the coolest and most impactful for me. And I'll stick to one for the sake of this. But I think my favorite class that also kind of impacted my career direction that I did not see coming was a podcasting class. So it's a I think it's dual listed between history and audio music engineering. And it's been going on for 5 or 6 years now. And essentially every semester, the profs, one history prof, one AME prof, pick some sort of historical topic. It usually has an environmental theme to it, but it's not exclusively that. And then the class breaks up into groups of three, and every group gets to create their own episode of a podcast to go in this longer series. And I took this just as part of my environmental studies major. I just thought it looked like kind of fun. But getting to create something so real and so tangible was really, really impactful. And I had done some stuff in like theater, tech, and sound. I had done some like radio stuff, but I'd never really thought about AME. I was very scared of it. I was like, oh, engineering, I could never. And I got to that class, and not only are the two professors who teach the course incredible, but we learned so many legitimate, technical skills I would have never learned otherwise. We had the opportunity during class to go out onto campus and record stuff and really build our own podcast episodes, write, research, edit the entire thing from scratch. And it's always a topic that has to do with local history. So also getting to kind of give back to the community in the sense of exploring history, but to use those very real technical skills that a lot of us hadn't been exposed to. Really kind of, which is super fun, honestly. And then, for me, going to journalism was also kind of a random thing that I chose, but having that background has given me a lot more guidance, but a lot more curiosity and interest. So yeah, I think it's called podcasting history, and it's one of the best classes, hands down.
So I was a public health major, and I don't know if it's a newer class, but my junior fall, I took communities, mental health, and injury prevention. And it was the first class I've ever taken where I got like you walked in and basically the message was come as you are and pursue what you want. And so um, we had like a guiding topic. Obviously, we were looking at community agencies as injury preventers through mental health efforts, but you could do whatever you wanted with your independent research project with the guidance of the professor. And I worked at a toy store when I was a high schooler in my hometown. And so I did basically an ethnography on the impact of independent toy stores on mental health in small towns. And so I got to interview my community from home and I talked to toy store owners in Rochester and got to do like this bridge between kind of both phases of my life. And it was a really impactful experience. And now my professor for my class is my thesis advisor for my master's program. And so, and I'm not doing it on toy stores, but it was the first class that kind of showed me the breadth of how you can take a subject matter and step into your own world, but also bring it into like a new topic, new phase of your life. And so I think that's just something to look forward to if you're picking a more niche major, is that there's a plethora of niche classes to take within those fields.
Yeah, I took it was probably not only one of the weirdest classes I've ever taken, but one of the more bizarre experiences I ever had in my entire life. It was a course called microsociology. And um, this course, you had two course sessions in a week. One was a lecture, and one you would go to a lecture hall, and there would be a TA with a camera. And for 2 hours, you would have completely unstructured, no prompting, nothing. You just sit there and converse with your fellow classmates. And there were the two groups. Tuesday, it was Tuesday, Thursday. You would never see the other group, and the lectures focused on social dynamics and the development of intimacy in small groups of people. And so over the course of the semester, we wrote papers based on going back and looking at the recordings of ourselves in those 2 hour sessions. We wrote a paper analyzing microsociological dynamics that we'd learned in the coursework about our own families. So it was a very like kind of out there class. And I didn't, it wasn't part of a cluster or anything. A friend of mine had said that he had done it and that it was one of the more eye-opening experiences that he had had at the university. And so I had to take it. And it was very interesting to observe over the course of the year sort of the recurrent themes in our discussions and to think about some of these principles and theories of how we get to know one another, to see those actually sort of be applied in practice was very interesting.
I actually have a quick one as well, sort of in the theme of like eye-opening, somewhat existential. I took an anthropology of food class, which has nothing to do with what I'm doing now. But I remember the first day of class, you walk in and on the whiteboard, the professor had written, "How do you make rice?" Um, and I think that kind of like highlights the diversity of all the people taking this class. Because basically, like, I don't know, like I'm Chinese, I grew up in Hong Kong, and like you put rice in a rice cooker, you hit the on button, and then you just kind of leave it. But it was super wild to sort of see like all of our students from all sorts of different countries and like backgrounds describe in great detail how they made rice. And I thought that was really cool. Definitely like love taking that class.
I have a fun one. Well, I don't know if it was too fun, but it was an interesting course. It was a dance course, and it was Pilates. And it made me figure out how much out of shape that I was, but also the fact that like you can get 4 credits from like doing Pilates and like learning just the academics behind that was interesting to me. I mean, it scared me from taking Pilates classes ever again, but it was a fun class to go to, and very atypical class at a university.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamal. And thank you all for sharing. When I look back at my University of Rochester undergraduate experience, I had a class very similar to that, Jamal, except a little less physically intense because I don't know that I would have been able to handle Pilates either. I remember taking an improvisational comedy course in my junior year. And it was from that class that I actually got scouted to be a part of an improv theater team in the city of Rochester. And I served as that theater's communications director for many years. And it really helped to be like my ticket to be a part of the greater Rochester community. And it had nothing to do with my major. And it sounds like that's something that really kind of resonates with a lot of us. where, we had our majors that we're passionate about and we were able to do research. We also had opportunities to explore and take courses that really kind of broadened our horizons and perspectives about the world and our own interests and passions, which is really what that flexible curriculum is all about. So great to see that it's working in action. We have had some questions come in, and I see that Alejandro is answering the first question we have. But I kind of want to broaden this topic because I think this is something relevant. I know, Jamal, you alluded to the fact that when you were looking at colleges, you heard about how Rochester was cold and in the middle of nowhere. But to folks, or obviously to our admitted students, they're looking at weather, they're looking at location. And most of us here on this call are not originally from Rochester. I grew up in Maryland. And I remember also feeling a bit intimidated by the snow and the winters. So to my alumni panel, what are some of the things that you remember about making that transition and handling your first winter at Rochester?
I can give a fun spin on it, but I'm from Jersey, so it was definitely colder than what I was expecting, but I was fine. But I will say, like, no matter how nervous you are, there's so much like resource and support that's going to make it a more seamless transition for you. And like maybe adjusting to the cold doesn't sound like something that there like needs to be resources for, but there are. But um, something like fun that I remember doing as a first year RA for my residents, everyone on my hall, like 90% of them were from different country, like warmer countries or from California. And so we went on a trip to the mall and did like a shopping spree together for winter gear and like everyone got to do it together. And then everyone went sledding to like I didn't organize the sledding, they just wanted to go after. But like there's a certain vibe where it's frustrating that it's so cold and like you can, get bogged down by it because it's the winter. But I think there is it builds a lot of community. It's what the year is like most of the time when you're there. And so there is a fun spin that you can put on it. And there's definitely people that want to make the winter fun for you.
I want to second that. My roommate was from Florida, and had seen snow maybe once or twice, but had no idea what she was getting into. And coming from Northern Virginia, I had experienced snow, but again, not really what a typical winter looks like for us. And so going off what was just said, my first year hall, one of my fondest memories is we all went out and had a huge snowball fight in the middle of the residential quad one evening. It was like a random Tuesday, and students from all these other dorms on the residential quad ended up running out and joining us, and it was just like 50 people just chucking snowballs randomly, and it had no organization, but it was wonderful. And so I think at the end of the day, remembering that you're not the only student going through the transition, there are a lot of students from all over the world with all different backgrounds, and not only is everybody there to support each other, but there's also still a lot of things happening on campus and in the city. Things don't necessarily die when winter hits. I mean, summer is definitely more lively in terms of outdoor activities, but there's still a lot of things you can do in winter, and campus itself still has a lively culture. And so definitely, I wouldn't stress too much in the sense that like you will have community. There are people there for you. And discovering it's kind of part of the fun, I think.
Yeah, I can just add real quick. I mentioned before I'm from Texas, so snow not too used to it. But as you can see now, I'm alive, and I live in Boston, so like there's a way forward. When I was coming in, I looked at it more of as an experience. I hadn't seen that much snow. I was going to college. It was going to be exciting. It does get tiring after a while, but again, everybody's kind of mentioned like the community. People really do get closer because of it, and we have tunnels, so like you don't have to, brave the cold every day outside. I mean, thinking back, I feel like I don't really remember just how cold it was because I feel like so many of my moments were with other people and focused on other things. So yeah, I mean, definitely it's fair to be like worried about the snow, but I feel like a lot of us on this panel are from places that don't snow, and we're a testament to that. The Rochester community, it'll keep you warm.
I'll chime in because I'm actually from Buffalo, so I went to Rochester for the heat, believe it or not. So one of the things I'll say, just from like a practical standpoint, is like yes, it'll be cold, but not only is the human body resilient, but they're prepared for it. Like Rochester knows it's cold, so like it's not like you're going to a place where they don't really know how to deal with snow, and you'll be trudging through feet of it because they don't have like the resources. Like Rochester, like has all of like half of their stairs like filled with snow, so you can walk down stairs that are plowed and nice and salted and everything's good to go. So like it gets cold and unfortunate, but like they're ready for it, they're prepared for it. Like things don't like get canceled or moved because they're ready and can handle it. And then I think someone mentioned the tunnels. Like your first year, all of the, unless it's changed where they are, all of the undergrad dorms are like a stone's throw to the tunnel entrance, and then you can just stay indoors all day long or just move from tunnel system to tunnel system. So you really don't have to be outside that often if your body is not resilient or you just don't want to deal with it.
So we've got two more questions that have come in, and the first one I'd love to address here amongst us is what was the biggest challenge you faced at Rochester, and how did you overcome it? Because I have a thought. I've been mulling over it as an alum. I think my biggest challenge that I faced at Rochester was I came in really locked in and certain about what I wanted to do in the future. And I think I kind of closed myself off. I was like, yeah, the flexible curriculum's cool. I'll take a couple fun classes, but I know exactly what I want to do at 17, and I have to follow the plan that I created for myself in high school because I've worked so hard and this is what I want to do. And I think in my first year and a half or so, I was so stuck on that track that I wasn't really as open to some of the other opportunities that existed around me. I came in dead set on pre-med. For context, I get squeamish around blood and I hate staying up late. So I would not have made it through med school or residency. That would not have been fun for me. And it wasn't until my fall of my sophomore year that I started taking public health classes and really leaning into that flexible curriculum that I was able to broaden my scope and really take advantage of everything going on. So I think my first year, I just kind of followed the paces. And that kind of at first, I was like, well, why am I not enjoying my classes as much as my friends around me? And it was because I had really narrowed my focus and thought that there was only one path forward. And luckily, because of that flexible curriculum, once I kind of snapped out of it, I was really able to make the most of that experience and had plenty of time for the rest of my time at Rochester to really chart my own path.
I almost have like the same experience, but mirrored, where when I came to the university, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so that was like an immediate difficulty. I was like thinking like, economics, I can go into banking, like that'll be great, that'll be secure, like that maybe isn't what would be most fulfilling, but I'd make money, it'd be great. I was a first generation college student, so I was very worried about like what am I going to do? I need to be secure. And for the first few years, first couple of years at U of R, I was really not entirely sure what I was doing. And so um, it took a while to kind of find my way. And so I'd say that was definitely the greatest difficulty. And one thing that was really kind of the most influential thing in terms of getting me on the right track was I had a work study job at the Career Center, and working with the wonderful advisors at the Green Center really helped me clarify my own wants and what I wanted out of my career. And then through a program that the Green Center administered in collaboration with the Humanities Center on campus, I participated in this really wonderful summer internship program that put me as an intern with a humanities organization in Rochester. And as soon as I had that internship experience, that clarified everything for me. And that ended up being the path that I went down once I graduated and am still on now. So I think as Devin mentioned, the open curriculum, but also some of the really wonderful resources and offices on campus available to students can help you navigate whether it's I'm making a change from what I thought was the certain plan, or I have absolutely no idea and I really need to figure that out.
I guess like a minor challenge. It's not, I wouldn't say it's Rochester specific, but it's just, you're going to college, you're going away from home. It's just kind of finding that balance, with like extracurriculars and classes, especially that first semester. I feel like I remember we had a club fair. I signed up for about 30 clubs that day, and I think I still get emails on my U of R email just from all those clubs. But that first semester, trying to figure out like the right balance of like I should be doing this at this time, and I should be in the library, and just figuring out that balance was definitely something that I know everybody has to go through it in their own way, but that's something that sets your path forward. So I'd say take it a little bit easy, or if you can figure out that balance, figure it out in your own way. But I'd say that was a challenge I had my first semester, and I'm sure other people also had the same similar experience.
like I came into Rochester thinking that I was going to do engineering and math, and I was like, yeah, I'm really, really good at math. And then I took my first like honors math course. It was like in theoretical calculus, and I was sitting there, and there was, some kid who was younger than me, who, was like in college at age like 15. And he walked up to the professor one day and was just like, hey, like, I was thinking about this unsolved theorem, and I'm like sitting there and I'm like, oh man. I think that's a pretty big confrontation. Like it was definitely a challenge to sort of like meet yourself where you're at and like realize that like actually like you might be good, but like some people are just built different. And I think a part of the Rochester experience is also about like finding the things that you're really good at and sort of specializing and really exploring who you are. But I think the first thing that you need to do as a first year student is sort of understand that like everyone's coming from such different backgrounds, and what you've taken for granted and what you've assumed in terms of like how big is the pond, how big of a fish you are, like all of these things are things that like you'll come to terms with. And I think that's true in any college environment, but in particular, a place like Rochester where the curriculum is free and a lot of people like come in really, really specialized, you sort of confront that, I think, more starkly. And I ended up becoming friends with a student, and now we're really good friends. She's doing a PhD at MIT in math now. And I remember like having this conversation with her, and I was just like, so when did you start doing like analytical geometry? And she was just like, oh yeah, I was like 12 and it was my fixation. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's awesome. So you kind of transition from being like, competitive or like even like insecure to like being extremely supportive of your friend because like their path is very different from yours. And I thought that was a really, at least for me, it was like a huge challenge at the beginning. And then over time, I like grew up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think in the context of that pond and fish metaphor, that's one of the things I appreciate about the Rochester community is that there really aren't many, if any, sharks in that pond. Students are really there kind of swimming and following their own current, and they're there to swim with you, and to celebrate the things that you do well and the things you bring to the ecosystem. But no one's ever trying to like come for your fins or like take over your reef. We're pretty chill with one another in that regard. But another question raised by some of the students that are joining us tonight is, since we talked about some of our favorite things as alums, what are some of our least favorite things about the University of Rochester? We've already talked a little bit about winter weather, which is one of my favorites, which I know is a controversial opinion. But to my pals on the panel, what are some least favorites about Rochester?
I can start with this one. I say this with no, like I just graduated, so I know people that are still there, and I can attest that it has gotten better since I've left, which I am happy for all of you incoming. I'm sad for my college self, but I think something to be aware of, any like transition in life, but going into colleges, the food was a very big thing for me. I have a lot of allergies, and I'm a vegetarian, and when you move from growing up at home and being the guide of your own food with your family to going to being fed through a dining hall and through a meal plan, there can be a lot of change in that. And I think one, it's just like learning your limits in general and like what you like as a person, but also when you have those kinds of dietary restrictions, it can be kind of challenging. I think it was probably a great life skill I learned from the U of R on how to like advocate for myself because I ended up getting accommodations as I needed them, and like everything got better as time moved on. But I also started college during COVID, so I feel like when I got there, I was like, cool, I'm gonna eat a Starbucks sandwich every day of my life. And so it got better as time moved on. But I think if you're someone with food restrictions, like I think the U of R is definitely working on expanding things. I recently found out they have food from Wegmans now in all of their like pickup spots, which is super awesome and great. Everyone seems to like it, but I think it's one of those campuses where there's no outside restaurants on the accessible campus itself. They're very close by, but learning how to manage your expectations with the food and also learning what works best for you so that you can speak up for yourself and get the accommodations you need if you need them is probably a great thing. But I think definitely the food was the hardest thing for me to get adjusted to when I got there.
I want to second that actually as somebody who also had dietary restrictions. Although by choice, I went vegan halfway through college, which was partially because it was COVID and I was bored and looking for a challenge. But coming back to Rochester once we got back on campus during COVID, one of the things that I had actually struggled with going vegan prior to that was a lack of options. And coming back during COVID, I noticed a few more things popping up, but I also noticed like was just said, people were willing to advocate for themselves, and our dining team is fairly responsive and will at least listen, whether or not they can implement everything. Things take time and things like that. But I remember from my first year in like 2017, 2018, the food between that and my sophomore year, the food actually got way better. And then when I came back during COVID and then I got vegan, I did feel like I had fallen a step back because I had fewer options. And when I go back to visit campus now, though, I'm seeing so many more options and I'm like annoyingly jealous because I'm like, that's not fair. It is fair. It takes time for things to settle and all that. But I just wanted to second that, as long as you can advocate for yourself, things are getting better and better. But that is a place where coming to college, especially if you're used to cooking all of your meals, having your own kitchen, depending on where you live on campus, you'll likely have access to a kitchen of sorts. But I lived in a special interest house and we had a huge kitchen and that made my transition a lot easier. But that was something that worked out for me and doesn't work for everybody. So yeah, just wanted to second the food thing.
I have something that's a bit like more like I guess like abstract. I feel like when I was at U of R, I had a really hard time like figuring out what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. Had like a ton of like just repeated existential crisis. And some of you folks like knew me while I was in college. It was not the easiest thing. I feel like I was constantly crashing out. And I think a part of that is because of the freedom. Like I think, a lot of us came to Rochester for the freedom, but freedom also means that you have to take responsibility for your choices in your life and like decide for yourself like who you want to be, and I think that is really really hard for a lot of people. It definitely wasn't my favorite thing because I didn't expect to need to confront that. Like I think a lot of us, or I guess speaking for myself, I came from a really really structured environment prior to college. Like my parents were like, we're gonna get you into the best school possible, like you're gonna do 12 extracurriculars and be the president of everything, and then suddenly, oh, I have choices. And then I had to like build for myself like this idea of like actually not who can I be, what is my potential, but like who am I really? And I think Rochester's the kind of school where like no one really holds your hand through that process. There's a ton of support available for you. There's a ton of advisors. I've cried to my professor several times. But I think at the end of the day, like that is still on you, like fundamentally. And that lack of hand holding I found very challenging. It wasn't my favorite thing. I wish I had a bit more guidance, but I think ultimately, like, that's sort of the choice you make when you choose to go to a school with more freedom.
So the next question, I am so delighted to see as a huge fan of the city of Rochester. This question is, how often do University of Rochester students go out into the city itself, and is it hard to get there? Alternatively, what are some of your favorite things to do in the Rochester area? And I assume this means off campus. I will start by saying that it is very easy to get to the city of Rochester. We have a campus, the Eastman School of Music, that's located right in downtown Rochester. They have a stop on the Red Line, which is one of our consistently running complimentary shuttle routes. We have, depending on the day of the week, up to a dozen different shuttle lines that run throughout the week, all complimentary. No matter what neighborhood you're trying to go to, what event or festival you're trying to check out, there is almost always going to be university transportation or Rochester Transportation Services, which is the city's transit network. They have dollar shuttles that'll get you to our transit center, which will take you literally anywhere. So easy to get to and fro. But with that in mind, what are some of folks' favorite things to do off campus?
I would say, I mean, you got to be over 21 to enjoy it, but mine was sort of going to the beer market or to a bar called Oxford's, and that was sort of off campus, and it was like the University of Rochester and the college night on Wednesday nights. So like that was one of my favorite. Also, like being able to do stuff with the local schools, mentoring and sort of tutoring, and those things were pretty cool. But yeah, I agree that to get throughout the city is pretty accessible, and the university does a lot with doing some community engaged stuff. Like there's a Center for Community Engagement Learning. And there's a huge thing called Wilson Day where everybody who are first years will sort of participate in community building activities to sort of get them a taste of the community. So I think there's lots of partnership and good stuff that the school is doing in the community.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Rochester for 5 years after graduating. I also love the city of Rochester. And I feel like the answer to the first part of the question of how often do students get off campus and into the city is not often enough. But it is easy to do. There are shuttles to Eastman, which is right downtown, and there's a lot of great cultural things that you can take in at the Eastman Theater. There's the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra, one of the finest orchestras in the country. There's the Eastman School of Music that's regularly presenting concerts and bringing in some of the best musicians in the world to Rochester. It's a festival town. So in the spring, just a short jaunt from the medical campus is the Lilac Festival at Highland Park, which is an absolutely vibrant celebration of the end of winter and the blooming of lilacs. And they always bring in musicians, and it's a huge, there's carts of food and artisans. And one thing I would say about the city of Rochester, it's absolutely a vibrant cultural place. It's there's music, art. You can visit the Memorial Art Gallery. You can take the shuttle there, also part of the university. There's a ton of independent creatives who live and work in Rochester, and I would highly recommend if you're a creative person getting involved in the really vibrant community.
I want to add that there are also sports teams in the area. So if you're into hockey and baseball, I would say are two of the biggest ones, but there's also a lacrosse team. I think there's a professional soccer team that was started a few years ago. So it's all minor league, but still great to take advantage of. And a lot of them do student nights and have student discounts and things like that. And the nature in the surrounding area and within the city is also fantastic. So I know I got off campus a lot as an environmental studies student. We were just kind of motivated by hiking and things like that. But I think, but the part of the question that was how often do students get off campus does also depend on how much you choose to go off campus, not just for events, but how much you choose to integrate yourself into the city. I know Jamal mentioned doing community work in the city as well. I got really involved in aerial silks and aerial arts, which was a random hobby I picked up through our yoga club on campus. And I found a studio in the city and then started, taking classes and teaching there for years. So it really just depends on how much you're willing to look beyond campus and try new things and just explore what's out there.
Good stuff. All right. Well, returning to the topic of food really quickly, because I know we chatted a little bit about some of the things that we didn't love so much about dining services. But to give dining a fair shake, were there any fond memories or other things that folks remember about dining on campus that you feel is relevant for accepted students?
I'm gonna say the breakfast at Douglas, like when we were in college, really slapped. I think like Saturday morning there was like brioche French toast. Like without fail, I think me and my roommates every Saturday like were in the dining hall. Even when we were seniors and like lived off campus, we would come back into campus for the brunch breakfast.
I guess I went into it with like low expectations because I've toured many schools when I was trying to make a decision, and I think from that select experience, at least back then in 2016, when I began colleges, I think the U of R, and I think there was rankings back then as well as like quality of food, was probably up there in terms of the dining hall has a lot of sort of diverse options of food and different cuisines, and I think I really appreciated that. Never really got tired of trying different things, and I think there's a plethora of options in terms of dining. As someone who doesn't have restrictions, I think through that lens, I mean, I think the food was pretty decent. It was something I would look forward to, especially on the weekends, as Amanda mentioned. Um, but I think yeah, I think the U of R really is tries to cater to different palates and really tries to give that experience to folks. And I hear obviously as Celia and Namita mentioned, they are catering to sort of more restrictions and sort of more options beyond what they already have in the past.
Yeah, I know I dropped some hate on the food, but I will say I like would do anything to have the French fries from the school on a daily basis, like I did. There's a sushi spot on campus that's like really great. There's always, unfortunately, a line of like 100 people, but it's worth it. And everybody, I don't ever see people leave the line. So I feel like there are great spots and there are, yeah, you'll get your highlight. And they do breakfast for dinner sometimes. So that great breakfast continues on. And they also do pop-up events all the time of local restaurants and businesses and food trucks. There was like a year and when I was in college where they had a food truck every Tuesday and it was awesome. But like you'll just walk into the like student center thinking that you're gonna get like, I don't know, the same sandwich you had yesterday, and then there'll be like a tamale cart for an hour. And then you'll be like, oh my God, everyone come, or there'll be churros, or like they're just like so much stuff. So I will say they do a good job of having pop-ups and fun events to bring new food onto campus. So it is a challenge, but there are stuff to look forward to as well.
Not to
Awesome.
just jump in something quickly, you definitely will not be eating chicken nuggets and fries for every single day. Like that's definitely not like you'll get some grown-up food in there as well from the dining halls, and I think it's pretty solid, I think, all things considered.
And I think, Ronnie, piggybacking off of something that you mentioned earlier about rankings, I know when I talk to prospective students on the road, often it's like, yeah, this dining hall or this university is ranked X for dining, and this one's only ranked this. Something I recommend is you're looking at this final list of schools and acceptances and thinking about dining. Most schools, including Rochester, post their menus every day. So if you want a genuine, authentic sense of like what's actually served at this school, take a look at our dining website. If you see like, oh, hey, that variety works for me, or, nothing here's really like doing it for me. Those are nice first person like ways that you can get a sense of whether, regardless of ranking, what that school is offering aligns with your palate and what you're looking for. But so I'm going to start with the first one we see here, which is what was it like living on your own when first adjusting to Rochester? And this person mentions that they're kind of wondering what that adjustment was like and how the support system worked for you here on campus.
I feel like I'm jumping in a lot, but I can say this as someone who was recently a first year RA and still knows many first year RAs. I have never, and I have a ton of friends who went to different colleges. I've never heard of a residential life department that trains their RAs and pushes their RAs to make connections with their residents like the U of R. I still talk to all of the kids that were in my first year, all 4 years ago, and there will be people there to support you. There are like every day some residential life staff members making an effort to make sure every kid is checked in on, or so everyone knows what's happening with the people in their halls. So make the connection with your RA. I think that would be like my first suggestion, obviously with the people in your hall. But I think if you're looking for that support system and you know that you kind of need that, your RA wants to be like connected with you. Obviously, they'll have like 30, 40 kids. So maybe they won't be like at your door when you need like the second you need them to be. But um, yeah, the residential life team for first year RAs really wants to make your life as seamless as possible, or at least provide you with the resources that you need. So if you can have that courage to go talk to them and introduce yourself and build that connection, I'm almost guaranteed it'll be a connection you have for all of college because nobody that is an RA at the U of R is there doing it for no reason. They want to be there and support you. So that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Just add something really quickly, not just like throughout college, but also after. So like I graduated in 2021, which was 4 years ago. My first year RA, Victoria Breza, is still like on my favorites list on my phone. Whenever I achieve something, I literally text her. We like got really close afterwards because we ended up in the same city. And like I still literally talk to her. So like they could also be like long-lasting mentorships, long-lasting friendships that like go way beyond. Like she'll probably be at my wedding, like stuff like that.
And I'm not sure if this has changed, but I think at least in freshman year, you have like the RA that obviously kind of their duties to sort of take care of other residents, but there's also like a DeLion what kind of focuses on your experience, your as a first year, the culture that you kind of have in your hall. And I think that kind of goes back to some previous comments in terms of how there are two different people that really are catered to making your first year experience as smooth as possible, and as also enjoyable as possible. So I think there's definitely resources there. And I think going back to a point I mentioned at the start, there really is this community beyond those two people who you would be your residents that kind of help the transition be easy. Like everyone is on the same boat. We're on that high school to college and transitioning into being more independent. And I think there's ample resources, especially at the first year level, that really help to off ramp you into being successful within sort of being independent. So I think that's something that the U of R I think did well with the sort of two RA plus the Lion setup.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And certainly we have a ton of other campus partners beyond the first year residential experience. But as we make it to the last 5 minutes or so of this session, I want to turn it over to our alumni panelists for one final question. As we look to the group of admitted students here with us today, regardless of where they go, whether it's Rochester, which we certainly hope that you'll join us here at the River campus, or elsewhere as they begin their undergraduate careers, what is one piece of parting advice you'd give to our admitted students on the call this evening?
One thing I always tell students when I get asked this question during interviews, like admissions interviews, is to just try everything. No matter where you go, college is one of the last times, not the last time, but one of the last times in your life that you have a ton of support around you, both academically and socially, to try new things. at a school like Rochester, we obviously have the open curriculum, which helps even more with, exploring different academics. And we have a very vibrant and diverse social life on campus as well. But this is kind of one of the last times you can really just try lots of different things and just see what's out there. So whether you think you know what you want to do or you have no idea at all, try new things. If something seems even mildly interesting, even if you've got no experience, just try it. The worst comes worst, it's not your thing, and that's okay. But you'll never know until you try. And college is a great time to have support to try new things.
I agree with what Celia said. I think going a bit beyond that, I think really wherever you go to really challenge yourself. I think challenging yourself, whether it's kind of how Celia said, is trying different things, but also just pushing yourself outside your comfort zone is I think something that you will thank yourself in the future for. There's no other kind of setup you can have this opportunity to do that, and I think within the 4 years of college, I think it's a great time where with minimal to some degree consequences in terms of really exploring your curiosity and just giving it all you can. Um, I think failure is an option. I think when you're in college and it's okay. So I think it's just give it your all. I think I would say wherever that might be.
Yeah.
I'll say,
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's 3 people.
Amanda, you go.
Sure, I'll make this quick too. So I agree with Celia and Ronnie. Like, I think that the phrase that I would use is that, like, you should really allow your education to transform you. Like, you should push your boundaries, you should try new things. But I think fundamentally, like, the purpose of education and liberal arts education isn't just to, like, get your degree and then get a job at the end. It's to, like, really, really, like, challenge like the ways in which you've thought about yourself and how you relate to the world. Rochester has so many opportunities for you to really confront those things. Like a lot of people can like grow up in a really sheltered place, but then the moment like they sort of step into a bubble where they have opportunity to explore, they're scared of actually doing that work. I think if you want any kind of education to like really, really impact you, you should seek opportunities to be transformed.
I'll go real quick. Just to echo, I guess, what everybody else has been saying, these are, 4 pretty formative years of your life. And, that can be kind of scary to think about, but this lays the groundwork for, whatever you end up doing afterwards. So I'd say leave nothing on the table. The worst thing you could do is look back, once you graduate and be like, oh man, I wish I did X, Y, Z. So college is the time to just try things, whether that's academically or socially or whatever. I mentioned before the club fair and like all the clubs I signed up for. I'm not mad that I still get all those emails. It just reminds me of a time when I was like trying to figure myself out and figure out things that I was interested in. And I look back on those memories fondly. So I'd say wherever you end up going, try as much as you can in a feasible way, and see where that takes you in 5, 10 years. I think we're all pretty successful people on this panel, so take it from us. There's life after college, and these are the seeds that'll grow into trees one day.
Love that. Seeds that will go into trees. So I'm using it. Um, my advice would be just be seeds that will grow into trees. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, but truly, I think my advice is have fun and be authentic. And sort of, I don't mean fun as far as go to parties and sort of do whatever, but have fun as far as like enjoy your time and create the experience you want to have. Like that, like make it fun for what you believe in and be authentic. I think often when people get to college, they see other people and sort of see what other people are doing and want to meet their energy and match what they're doing. Like, don't try to force or be something you're not, but also be the most authentic version of yourself and unequivocal about that. Because I think the diversity of our opinions and the diversity of who we are is what makes us where iron sharpen iron. So like the more authentic you can be, it helps in those tough moments by resorting back to being yourself and not something that you're not. So authenticity and have fun.
I can jump in. I think definitely a piece of advice I would give is don't close yourself off. Take the chance to meet as many people as possible. I know I can only speak for Rochester, but we have a really big population of out-of-state and international students. So it's really cool to meet folks from all over, and you never know what connection is going to lead to a different opportunity. So really build your network out and just treat people with kindness.
I would say be patient. I feel like in the phase of life you're in right now, while you're ending high school, be patient. Don't get so excited to jump to the next phase because it'll come when it does. But even when you're in college, be patient. I feel like it's going to be like so exciting and so many new things, but also be ready for things to be hard and things to seem like they're not going to get better. But if you're patient through it, like everything will change. I always say like that like what my life looked like senior year, I couldn't even fathomed in the beginning of college, and it was like patience that got me there. And I think learning how to use that to my advantage in college only set me up for better success after college. So, be patient with yourself. If school is hard, if life is hard, be patient with the other people around you because everyone else is also growing and a young person becoming someone new. And so be patient and like let the light come to you. I feel like it's all there. It just you have to take every step you can to get there.
I'll say comparison is the thief of joy. So people who you go to school with will have different goals than you. They'll have different timelines for achieving those goals than you. They'll have different study strategies that work for them that you wish would work for you, but don't. So you're very individual, and the next 4 years are going to be a big opportunity for you to like come into that, kind of like other people have been saying. So just give yourself patience and space, as Cynthia Erivo would say. Or was it the interviewer? I forget that story, whatever. And to figure out like who you are and what works for you and not compare yourself to other people because it's really easy to get stressed out and work yourself up for no reason.
I will say my piece of sage wisdom, as you all are nearing the end of your college search process, as you've gone through high school, there's a lot of pressure to get fantastic grades and do a million things and have this perfect resume, this perfect application. And it's all in search of this very discrete next step, which is college. After college, your paths forward are infinite and numerous, and there is no one set destination. Your course is yours to take, and I would implore you to not spend all your 4 years of undergrad thinking about what's next and focus what's here in the present and what you're doing in the now, and allow yourself to just be and to soak in the experiences that you will have, because you are destined to have a million wonderful ones in the future as well. But you don't always have to be thinking about what's next. You can think about what's now too. Thank you so much to all of our wonderful alums who joined us today to share their advice, their perspectives and experiences. Thank you all admitted students for being here, asking wonderful questions, and learning a little bit more about the University of Rochester. Feel free to reach out and continue to connect with us if you have any questions, curiosities, or concerns as we approach May 1 and the enrollment deposit deadline. Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day.